Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Storytellers for Sunday School. We're so glad to have all of you here in person and those joining us by ways of online broadcasts. And those that are listening on their way to church today, we're so glad to have you with us. And we are excited today to share with you Dr. Susan Clark and talk about the book that she is launching today. She's a newly released book titled, I Wanted You to Know, and this is a book about before grief. And so, Dr. Clark, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for being with us today.
I thank you for having me. This is definitely an honor to be able to share this exciting moment with you.
Amen. Well, we want to jump right into it. Today is your book launch day.
Yes.
And we've been looking forward to this for months now.
Me too.
We started planning this towards the end of last year and got the dates nailed down. We wanted to make sure the book was going to be here in hand and the orders process ready to go. And so here we are. It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
Of course, this book didn't start just at the end of last year. This started long before then. And so to kind of kickstart it, tell us a little bit of a backstory about how this book came to be.
Well, thank you. In my life, I had a lot of deaths, a lot of losses.
Sure.
And losses are not just from someone dying.
Right.
We have losses when we lose job opportunities and friendships and things.
Absolutely.
And I tell my clients, because I am a psychotherapist, I tell my clients to sometimes journal because they're not able to speak to me. They don't have anybody else to speak to. Why don't you journal and write down some of your thoughts?
Sure.
So I was doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I got to writing, and I saw that there may be a story, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But here's what happened. I'm dreaming. I'm going to say dreaming, and God is speaking to me. And he said, I want you to write this. And I was like, yeah, that's not right. So it's just a dream. And I go back to sleep or the next day or something. But it happens again and again. And I said, okay. So this is the title of the book, I Wanted You to Know. So I started writing a little bit. And this is going on like 2017.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so then I hear the voice again. I said, well, let me put a sticky in my drawer. So right there by my nightstand, when I open my drawer, because that's where I put my glasses when I go to sleep at night, so I'm not fumbling all over the place looking for Michael's glasses so I can find my glasses.
Right.
So I have a sticky. I open up my drawer, and it says, write the day at 3 o'clock. Write the day at 3 o'clock. And so sometimes I do that.
Sure.
Okay, so time is going by. So now maybe a year has gone by.
Okay.
And the voice is getting louder. If you know, you have a relationship with Christ, the voice gets louder. I come to church, someone comes up to me, and I have a word from the Lord. I was like, oh my gosh, he just won't leave me alone.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's another word. Somebody else comes a couple of months later, evangelists, or is a prophet right here in the church. Yeah. They're saying something. Then tongue is interpreted. He's still talking to me.
He's still talking.
Okay, let me do something about this.
Sure.
Okay, so one of the things I try, because in my book I have an area about love letters you leave to your loved ones, something you write.
Very good.
And so let me try this out. So what I did with one of my clients, their parent was dying, and I said, well, maybe it'd be nice if you just told them and hold their hand and say, I wanted you to know how much you cared for me.
Sure.
So in the office, before pandemic, I had a physical office, not doing telehealth.
Right.
We wrote something together in my office, and he said he read it to his mother because she's frail. Well, it was his mother. She's frail at this time.
Sure.
And when he came back and shared it, he said it really made a difference, and he could tell by the way she was holding his hand and looking at him that it made a difference. So that gave me another fire in my heart to do this.
Sure.
All right, so we say this is year 2024. 2022, I decided to go to school and finish to get certified as a professional life coach.
Okay.
And because of that, that same school had the capability, another entity, I don't know how I would say it, but that offered how to write your book.
Okay.
Okay, so I said, okay, let me hire somebody because accountability does help you
Absolutely
to make any changes, whether it's your where you're eating or where you're
Right.
walking and exercising.
Right.
So I'm going to hire somebody. So they explained everything to me from the beginning. We would help you with this and help you with that. And then they told me the price. I said, oh, no. My gosh, this is in the thousands.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to God. Really, I'm murmuring and complaining. That's what I'm really doing.
Yeah.
And I say, Lord, you want me to write this book. You
Yeah.
tell me what you want me to write. You give me the title. But now, look how much this thing costs.
It's going to cost. Yes,
And
it does.
I really believe God said, well, what's the problem? Haven't I blessed you? Don't you have some money in the bank? I was like, okay, Bob, I'm sorry I bothered you.
Right.
Sorry
right.
I bothered you.
Yeah.
And so I did hire this person in May of 2023.
Good.
And you have conversations with this person, videos.
Sure.
And, I like what you wrote. You have 2,000 words. In 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I need 2,000 more.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I'm going to do this because now I'm invested with money.
Right. Right.
So I started writing, and I finished writing from May to August of 2023.
Okay.
And then there's, they had to edit it, move this paragraph here,
Right,
make that
right.
paragraph here, make it more easier to read
Sure.
without changing my content.
Right.
And then we have to make the book cover.
Right. Right.
And I want blue. I like blue. My house
Yeah.
is powder blue.
Okay. Yeah.
I like blue. And I said I want a beach scene. I want it to be relaxing because I want to live, I don't want to live near the beach, but I want to hear the water.
Yeah,
So maybe I
yeah.
get it a little bit inland.
Right.
And this is what they came. They gave me 3 choices.
Yeah.
And that's the one I chose.
That's awesome.
And I really like that.
The book cover is beautiful and has a great feel to it.
Yeah.
And it's not a long read, but it's a very powerful, practical, relatable read
Thank
as
you.
well. And whenever I saw this, it did look exactly like you described. It was peaceful.
Good.
There's like this feeling of tranquility there that was just saying, okay, this is not going to be a book that is very or trying to be so direct in telling me what all I have to do to make it through grief or to know before grief even
Yes.
happens. But these are stories of relatable
Yes.
examples that I can apply, and every story is going to be different, but relatable to what all of us go through in the course of life, because life brings all kinds of challenges,
Yes.
different seasons, different times, and one story in here may relate to me now, and then 10 years down the road, another story could relate to me. And I love how it was published. Your team did a fantastic job there.
Well, thank you. I want the book is 110 pages,
Okay,
okay? And there's several areas that I do discuss in there.
sure.
I tell 4 stories of how people have experienced a death,
Yes.
okay? 3 of the stories are from a mother.
Mm-hmm.
One is the story of how she's experienced death of getting a knock on the door
Yeah.
and being told by a police officer her son has died from
Wow. Yeah.
a car accident.
Mm.
Another story shares a mother finds out that her son died by suicide.
Okay.
These are mothers.
Sure.
And another story, a mother watches her son decline to death from cancer.
Wow.
And then I have another story with a young man.
Right.
He tells of how he has the death of a wife,
Mm-hmm.
and he has a death from losing peace of mind.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So I have those
Exactly.
4 stories, and the purpose of the stories is for each person to understand that we experience death differently.
Of course.
But each one of these 4 people are still standing.
Right.
They found a way to continue.
Exactly.
Because you either, as the Bible says, you choose life or death. And they
That's
chose life. But it's still a struggle.
It is. Absolutely, it is.
It's still a struggle. Now, I share, I believe, 6 stories of different members of my family that died from the time I was in my 20s to as early as last year. This year is very new because it's only 21.
Sure.
But last year, my mother-in-law died. And the year before that, in 2022, my father, which would have been 93, probably 4 or 6 weeks later, he died.
Wow.
And so I share a little bit about those experience through as I'm maturing.
Right.
But death doesn't change.
Exactly.
It still is like a punch in the stomach.
It is. And it's so permanent.
Yes.
And that's how because that's why it's so difficult, because of the permanence of death.
Yes.
And it's good, like you point out in your book, that these folks, you have examples of the folks that chose to keep living and to keep moving forward and not just get by, but thrive, but to get through. But it doesn't take away their humanity, their feelings, their emotions. Just because they choose life doesn't mean that they're not experiencing grief still, or the pain of loss or anything like that.
Yes. You can't change that.
Right.
What happened has happened.
Right.
And what you feel is what you feel.
Exactly.
And at any given time, I have said to my family, "Are you okay?" He said, "No, I was thinking about my dad."
Yeah.
No, I'm not okay.
Right.
But I don't stay there.
Exactly.
I don't go home or stay in the bed and put the covers on
Right.
in that depressive state that I have had.
Right. Right.
But I still have that feeling of emotion.
Exactly.
And I agree with a statement you said, which is also in my book. It's permanent.
It is.
Death is permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And the loss is permanent.
Right.
And so I believe death never changes, never leaves us.
Sure.
Not death. Grief never leaves
Sure.
us.
Sure.
I think it just changes.
It does.
One day you're feeling one way, and maybe that day I didn't even think of my mother, or I didn't think of my father. But then that doesn't mean I'm at fault because,
Exactly.
I didn't think of my mother. Oh, I didn't think of my dad. No, I'm not at fault.
Exactly.
But when I do think of them, a tear may come to my eye.
Yes.
And it's like, man, I was so grateful and honored to have been their child, and them putting up with my nonsense.
Yeah.
And giving me patience, being patient with me. And I think some of these things we don't think about.
You're right.
Until we mature.
Exactly.
And have children and say, that's how I was acting.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that they endured.
Exactly.
I don't know if the right word, but
sure.
They tolerated me.
Right.
They couldn't give me away. Well, I guess they could have, but I look back and I say, man, I am truly blessed, even with the highs and the lows, because when you stop and think about it, not everybody have loving people in their life.
Exactly. You're right about that. And it is a blessing to have that love and that care of people that it's wonderful to receive the love and the care from ones that you expect it from. Mm-hmm. And it's wonderful to receive it from those that you don't expect it from as well. And that kind of leads me into my next question here. During the process of writing your book, we know that this comes from a well of experience, wealth of knowledge, and you have counseled so many people, helped them through different times, the good, the bad, and the crazy. But we also know this, that it's not a one-man show. No man is an island. And so what was your support system like throughout the journey of writing this book?
Well, definitely the support of God telling,
Amen.
Reminding me, like, you got this.
Right.
You're not alone.
Right.
I'm giving you the words. But mostly my family.
Yeah.
My family. And Michael said, "What are you doing?" And I say, "I'm trying to write something." He said, "You can do this. Just be still and listen, and you can do this."
Absolutely.
And my family was there. My children definitely.
Yeah.
They would say, "Are you writing anything yet?" I said, "Not yet." Or, "How's the writing coming along?" They remind me.
Sure.
My siblings, I have a brother remaining and 2 sisters, and I would ask questions. some would give me answers.
Sure.
Some would say I can't talk about it because it's still hurting in their heart.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so I felt there was a little bit of resistance, but
Sure.
I'm going to say resistance because I think they weren't ready for the questions.
Sure, sure.
So my family was very supportive, and then I would tell, I'm writing a book. And they say, oh, you are? And I would get a word of encouragement about that from
Good.
my Red Hat sisters.
Okay.
I've been part of the Red Hatters.
Yeah.
It's a group of ladies that wear purple and red.
Uh-huh.
We wear red hats. I don't know if you've seen us anywhere.
I definitely have.
And we're, as they saw, we're a bunch of hens cackling, having fun, and our meetings are about when we're going to have our next meeting and where we're going to eat.
And I would say a force to be reckoned with, too.
Oh, yeah, my daughters have come, and they would say, oh, man, these ladies.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the youngest one in the group, and
Wow.
I'm close to 70.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
and they tease me if I say something, blah, blah, blah. They say, oh, you're just a baby.
Just a baby.
So it's good that I think there's one more lady that joined recently.
Sure.
And she's a little younger than me, maybe 2 or 3 years, so they won't pick on me as much.
Not as much.
Not as much. But so the Red Hat sisters, they would encourage me.
Good.
I have a group of counselors that we talk, we video.
Yeah.
And twice a month.
Okay.
And we can go over some of our cases. We don't
Okay.
have to we don't break confidentiality,
Sure,
but
of
we'll say something like, I have something, this and that. And we'll talk about it, and they encourage me also.
That's good.
And so mostly my family,
Mm-hmm.
the Red Hat Sisters,
Yeah.
the counseling group.
Yeah.
And then, if I say to anyone here, it's like, oh, did you know I was writing a book? No, I didn't know. I say, yeah, I'm still trying to write on it and
Yeah.
stuff. And then if a prophet comes and says something to me in my ear, and I say, that prophet just got finished telling me about me writing my book.
Yep.
So support system is very necessary.
Absolutely it is.
Because even if I have all the information, the enemy is here to kill, steal, and destroy.
That's right.
And put lies in my head. And if I hold on to that, I'm not going to make
Right.
it.
That's right.
And you wake up in the morning, and I'm getting ready to write something later that evening when it's quiet, and I hear that voice and saying, what you're writing not making sense. Nobody's going to buy it. And then I slowed up writing because I actually was believing that lie.
Sure.
And then I turned it around and I said, if nobody reads it except for me, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to finish this because I had to change my mindset.
Yes.
So, yes.
So what would be your encouragement to those that, not necessarily that they're writing a book, but they feel like God has put them on a mission in life, and there's an end goal in mind, and the Lord has put that dream or that vision into their life, but yet life is still happening.
Okay.
You still got to go to work every morning. You still got to provide for the family. You still got to face the challenges of life. Now it's like there's an added weight, added mission here. And what would be your encouragement to those that do feel like they're in the middle of that season where they feel they were excited at first?
Yes.
But now they're going through that season that they feel defeated, and if it's even worth it.
Right. And there's so many examples I can give about that, but we'll keep back to the book.
Yeah.
In the relationship with Christ, because most of the people that have this is something that God gave them.
Sure.
All right. I have to remind them, you have to be still. If you are, I know you're praying, but you have to spend more time with God so you can have that peace that will remind you can finish doing this.
Amen.
And yes, you do have another, as you say, maybe it's a burden, but another responsibility.
Right.
And I encourage them to remember, it's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And you decide how you want to use it. And if you're not sure, have that still time with Christ, and He'll show you how to do it.
Sure.
And then you can also delegate some of the things you were doing that will set aside time for you to put this first.
Right.
Because if you don't, God will rearrange things so that you will do that.
Absolutely.
I've heard of people saying, I got a cold and now I'm flat. I twist my ankle and now I'm in bed and I got nothing I can do. I can't get to work. I said, I guess that's time you're supposed to be writing.
There you go.
Maybe that's the time you're supposed to be organizing and planning. And when you share some things like that, besides being still so God can put your direction in order, when you also share that part, they say, well, I'm going to get to it because I don't want him rearranging it the way I don't want it, because God will get your attention to do the things he wants you to do.
Just ask Jonah, right? in fact, I tell this story, I preach it many times before, how we have not yet, as in humanity in general, have not discovered a big fish or well of a fish that could actually swallow a human being and create the environment where he can live in the belly of a well for multiple days and then remain alive.
Right.
We have not discovered that.
No.
Whether it's just being digested or just having gone to the depths of the ocean and the pressure that is there, no human can sustain that. So God, in his sovereignty, his infinite wisdom and knowledge, and to accomplish what he wanted to happen, created this being that could swallow Jonah and keep him alive, teach him a lesson, and then put him back on the right track. But I also know, even though that was a literal story, a real story, many times God, I believe, puts us in positions that the devil wants to destroy us with, but God is using it to develop us.
Yes.
And so sometimes, what would be your encouragement to those that they feel like everything is falling apart, and I'm trying to find out how God is developing me, but I don't readily see it right now. And then from there, it's not only how do we get through it, but there is a sense of grief that comes after experiences like that. There are people that don't always understand you. There's going to be people that judge you. There's going to be people that read your book and may not even agree with you.
That's true.
On a lot of things. So these things are going over in your mind, but you know that you're on a mission and God is setting you up for success.
For greater.
Absolutely.
I think sometimes you just have to be still and recall what valley experience we have, or even a crisis.
Yes.
Anything we consider uncomfortable, and say, did you stay there too long? Were you able to get out? Were you able to move forward? And so if I bring the client, well, I'm going to say client, but if I bring them back to past history, then they can see that they made progress.
Yes.
And they have to actually be able to see that. And even Brother Cooley, am I saying that correctly? Coley.
Yes.
Reese,
yep,
yes.
Coley Reese.
He made a statement when he was preaching that when we're in the valley, we should be taking notes.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that's the same thing I want others to do. Go back to what you was experiencing and how you went through the journey, and let's do that again.
Sure.
You did something when you was in the valley that got you out of the valley into the mountaintops that you was able to proceed.
Yes.
Go forward.
Yes.
And so I remind the clients that's what they need to do.
Absolutely.
And like Brother Reese was saying that, yes, take notes. And so when I was there, this is how I responded. And this is what worked. This is what I need to do again.
Yes.
So because we believe what we tell ourselves more than what other people tell us.
Oh, that's a good word. I like
okay,
that.
So if I believe what I tell myself more, I need to tell myself truth.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that's what to answer your question, I would remind the person of what they did to succeed, to repeat it.
Yes, so good. I love that, because so many times we are talked at and talked to, and what we have to remind ourselves is who we are, whose we are. We are a child of God, a child of the King, and that God has not destined us for failure. He has provided everything we need, every ingredient we need to succeed. And so that kind of leads me into my next question for your book. what is it that you want your book to do for others?
I want my book to give hope to people.
Yes.
Hope that they can continue, because when you're in a devastating situation, you feel hopeless.
Sure.
And hopeless usually leads to death by suicide.
Sure.
If you in that dark place too long,
Absolutely.
because
If you're there too long.
your mind doesn't see, you're hopeless. We'll just say that.
Right.
So I want my book to give hope to those that are in pain and the suffering of death and the pain of a loss, which is may not be a physical loss, but I didn't get that job opportunity. I didn't get that loan. That person doesn't want to date me. These are losses. They still feel bad.
Right.
And I want them to give them hope that when you read the book, there are some things that happened to people they experienced they did feel bad.
Sure.
I'm not going to say, I'm not sure if they felt hopeless, but if they did, it was very temporary, to the point they decided to choose life and move forward.
Right.
So I want the book to give them hope, because when you read it, you hear of other people's grief, but they're still standing.
They're still standing.
And
I love that idea, and of course the mission is to give people hope. Can you explain a little bit about what you just mentioned, how grief can come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes? We understand as counselors that there are stages of grief that people will go through. Many times it's not in order of how we study it, but as we study, we understand that it can be a mixture of emotions back and forth, and they could experience one area of grief sometimes more than the other areas. But nevertheless, it has been a proven thing that people go through different stages of grief. But it's not only when people pass away, a loved one passes away. Talk to us a little bit about not the aspect of when you going through grief of someone passing away, but going through the grief of, like you said, not getting the opportunity that you were hoping for, the job that you applied for, the promotion, going on that date of the person that you thought was going to be it, and they turned out not to be it for whatever reason. How does that affect us, and can you expound on that a little bit?
I'm going to say it affects us the same way.
Sure.
We all grieve differently, and there's people that will say something like, "Oh, get over it." There's a lot of more fish in the sea, and there's another job you can apply for, and everything like that. But I think we still go through those same stages. Sure. I'm not going to repeat them all, but we get angry. We feel like it's not fair.
Right.
I did all this work, and they picked somebody else.
Right.
I put my application in, and nobody's probably even calling me. And we feel, rejected, abandoned, insignificant, unimportant. I mean, I can go on with a lot of words. But I really believe we address that grief, that loss, the same way. We're sad, we're angry.
Then we start trying to bargain of, what could I have given up? What could I have done better?
Right.
All these different, trying to trade out. And that's a difficult thing. But the difference between some of those and the death aspect is that those are not always permanent situations. Now, there is, I've preached messages before and taught this lesson about the permanence of lost opportunities.
Okay.
There are some times that certain opportunities will only come around once in our life.
Yes.
And we know, even if it was to come around again, it's not going to be the same way. It's not going to be in the same season, whatnot. So there's a permanence of lost opportunities. But most of the way we live life is that if we made a mistake, then we get an opportunity to make it right and do better next time.
Yes.
Or at the very least, if we know we cannot go back and make that situation right, we can make the future situations better because we learn from our mistakes in the past.
Correct.
But there's still that grief that you go through, wishing that you would have done better.
Yes, we as I'd say, coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah.
And there's a thought that if I had done this first, I wouldn't have lost this opportunity,
Right.
and which is a sadness.
Yeah, right.
And like you said, Pastor, some things don't come back around again,
Right.
but there are some things that do.
That do, yes.
And you can correct your narrative of how you speak to people.
Right.
You can, well, maybe I won't say correct. You can improve.
Sure.
You can improve and say, well,
Improve.
next time I take this lady out or
Right.
I'm talking with this gentleman, maybe I won't eat with my mouth open.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I mean, we're just little silly things, but you can say, well,
small things matter.
Yes, small things matter. Maybe I'll improve upon that. Next time I go in an interview, I'll be more prepared to answer the question about the
Right.
company
Right.
and what I can bring to the company.
Right.
We do want to improve.
Yes.
We do want to improve, but I don't want people to have regret.
There you go.
And that's why in the book,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
area, one of the areas I speak of have no more excuses. How you might get a phone call and they say, oh, did you hear what happened to Mary? You said, what happened to Mary? They said, she died. And you said, oh my gosh, I was going to call her last week. And so we don't want to have regrets. We want to be able to contact and talk to people. Matter of fact, one of my people, we worked together, we played softball together.
Okay.
And she said on Facebook, I bought your book. I'm reading it. But then she called me yesterday when I was in the fellowship hall getting things ready for guests today. And she called me and she said, that part about the book. And she called me right then.
Yeah.
And we talked briefly. And
That's
she said she has, 8 or 9 grandchildren. I said, oh, wow.
Wow.
I missed
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
But we don't want to have regrets.
Right,
And
right.
so even now when I talk with my clients and when you're talking about the area is not a physical death,
Right.
I said, you don't want to have any regrets. Why don't you maybe hire somebody to help you with your resume?
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to move on. You say you're uncomfortable in this job. Maybe God's turning the heat up so you'll get
Exactly.
out. Because
Exactly.
sometimes you have to let something go to receive
Right.
something.
That's exactly right. I love that. And we have about 10 minutes left. And what I would like to do for the last about 10 minutes or so that we have, I want to kind of just go through a little bit. Of course, tell us about the foreword and who wrote the foreword for your book. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, my foreword is written by Bishop Patterson.
Yes.
And I met him, oh my gosh, it was before 9/11.
Yeah.
9/11 was 2001, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I am in my internship calling around, trying to find somebody that will help me with my hours. You have to have so many counseling hours.
Right.
And he graciously said yes.
Yeah.
And so we've been talking together for years.
Oh, yes.
And he mentored me and helped me with sitting in on some of his clients.
Good.
I remember one of his clients, he said, I'm not going to be here, Susan. I'm not going to be here. You're going to have to talk with this person. I said, oh.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what's her situation? He said, oh, she has bipolar. And I said, okay. He said, and most people with the characteristics of bipolar talk a lot. He said, you won't have to say anything. And he was right. I would say, how are you doing today? And she talked the whole time. And the only thing I had to do was like, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to hear that. And I made it. So, but he trusted me with his client without
Right.
her. Okay.
That's right. That's wonderful.
And so we've been talking off and on. And then Michael and I had, when Pastor Waldron left his church at Acts Church, he went to another location.
Yes.
We were looking for a church for, I think, about a year maybe.
Yeah.
And every Sunday we went someplace because we were
Right.
going to hear the word.
That's right.
And we came, I don't know if you recall, we came here a couple times and went to Solid Rock a couple times.
Yeah.
And I said, but before that, I said, why don't we try the bishop's church?
Yeah.
Why don't we try his church? And he said, okay. And so we did try it, and we're here.
Now
we're
you're here. And you've been here for a while now.
Yeah, I don't even remember how long, but
Yeah.
I do remember saying to my husband, shouldn't we tell the pastor that we're going to be here and stay? And Michael said, well, he knows we come here all the time. And I said, but I think we're supposed to verbally say it.
Yeah.
And I said, but you should say it. You're the head of the home. You should say
Yeah,
it.
that's
Like I
right.
said, you know how we women are like, go on, go.
Right,
go.
right. Well, back then, we didn't have the Welcome to the Family class
No.
and the processes and systems that we have in place now to where people can say, okay, we've actually had people that have been attending here for over a year trying to figure out if this is where they wanted to land or not. And then they go through Welcome to the Family, and it's like they feel that I guess that connection, that solid state that says, okay, I'm here and I'm here to stay.
Yeah, we're here to stay.
That's wonderful.
So Bishop Patterson, I called him up, and I don't know, maybe I didn't call, maybe I text. I go back and forth.
Sure.
I prefer talking to people. I'm still old school. I like to go in the store and touch the fabric and try the clothes on.
Right.
I'm not, but anyway, so I believe maybe I called him or texted him, but we did both. And he said he would he loved to do that. And so the foreword is written by the bishop, which is your grandfather.
Dr. Patterson. I'm so thankful, and that was a huge honor for him.
Well,
and of course, he told me to give you his love and his regards today. He's sorry he cannot be here in person. Of course, he's taking care of Mother Patterson, but he wanted me to let you know that it was an honor for him to write the foreword for your book. And then, of course, you have the acknowledgments, introduction, and then there's 2 different parts of the book here. The first part is the journey of grief, which you take us through 8 different chapters. Journeys through loss, my journey through 6 deaths, the death of a niece, of a mother, a grandmother, oldest sister, a father, and death of a mother-in-law. That's the first part. And then it leads into the second part of I wanted you to know. No more excuses, important papers, my wishes, and instructions for leaving letters. For the next couple of minutes, can you take us through each one of these parts, just a brief description of each part?
Okay, so maybe if I do it in better order, I'm looking at it, right? Well, as you said, we have the foreword and my acknowledging people that supported me and the introduction. The journey of grief, the journey through the losses is where the 4 stories are, where people are sharing how they survived, I'm going to say, because they're still standing, and how it affected them.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And then I go into the 6 deaths of how I heard about the deaths and how it affected me and how I learned to continue also.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And then we get to the second part. I wanted you to know no more excuses is back to what are we waiting for? What's the reason we're not calling somebody? We're thinking about them. We don't call them. We can send a text. Most people have phones. We can send a text. We can call. We can send a postcard. Mail still works.
It still works, absolutely.
We can send, nothing has to be expensive, but some people have a little bit more money than others. You can send a fruit basket. You can send, you can send my book. But there's all kind of things you can do, because no more excuses is about not making we make excuses because we're busy.
Sure we do.
We say, well, I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to do that tomorrow. And I wrote this, and I still need to pay attention to what the author said.
Absolutely.
Okay, pay attention to no more excuses no more excuses is about taking the time to let people here that are remaining how much you care for them. It's nothing. I mean, I know my husband loves me. I know my children love me. But it's nice to hear them say it. It's nice for me to say it. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm glad you came home. I'm glad you made it safely. You know, I appreciate you cooking dinner. Thanks for washing the clothes, because I still don't know how to use a new wash machine. He's told me.
That's a good excuse. No, but no, that is so true, because we take a lot of these things for granted so many times. And even though we feel it, and we are grateful for what they do, it doesn't always interpret into the words that we should be sharing with them, because they just automatically know, we love them. And sometimes our appreciation to people is shown through acts of love, through telling people that we love them. But nevertheless, as much as we preach and teach, don't miss an opportunity to witness to the world, witness to a sinner. Also, we shouldn't miss an opportunity to show the love of Christ, not only just to strangers, but to the ones that we love the most and the ones that are directly connected to us.
Definitely, because, I mean, it's nice to get a compliment and say, someone come up to you and say, that's a really beautiful dress you have. I like those, your glasses. But it feels different when my husband says it to me.
Exactly.
And so he does that.
That's wonderful.
He does that.
You got a good husband.
He's a keeper.
He is.
He's a keeper. I state that in one of my stories about the death of mother-in-law, how she raised him up to be the man he is.
That's awesome.
When he got to me, I didn't have to do a whole lot of training. You know what I mean?
Yeah, praise God for that.
You know what I mean, Michael.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, but no, that's the part about no more excuses. And then I go into important papers because we've failed to put things in order that are necessary. Right. It's sad to hear through some of my clients that someone has died in the family and the sons are living with the mother and they don't know what the brother's wishes were. And it's like, wow.
Right.
So we should have, well, a lot of times people don't like the word should, but it's necessary to have leave a less burden and responsibility of those remaining to know what your wishes are. Now, give them direction,
clear direction.
Clear directions.
And that brings peace to their life as well, because they're already dealing with the loss, and now they have to make decisions. People that are dealing with grief don't make decisions always well immediately after that loss comes.
Right.
And so this gives them clear direction and confidence in their next steps.
And that's important,
yes,
because without clear direction and you're in a mode of grief and anger sometimes, there's lashing out.
Right.
And it's been said grief can bring the worst out of people, and it can. And the other part I have, my wishes, that's part of the important papers, and my wish is what I want.
Wonderful.
But I want to definitely make sure I address instructions to leaving letters.
Sure.
You have the instructions of, I want to be buried, I want to be cremated, this is where my accounts are, these are my passwords.
Right.
But I want more than that. I know if I had received the letter in my time of my mother's grief, my journey would have been easier, because it's still a terrible journey. Because it's brutal as far as I'm concerned, because I had no control of it.
Right.
And a lot of us want to control some things. But in leaving the love letters, you say to your loved one, your parents, if God forbid you leave before your parents, or to your children or your spouse, I love you. I know you're not here. I wish I was here, as I write in my book The Kiss Away the Boo-Boos. But since I'm not here, lean on your family. You don't have to do this alone. I loved you. I'm so glad that when we met, we did this and that, and you brought this value, and you brought this purpose, and this is what we accomplished. And the person may already know that, but you read this, you have this letter in your hand, I think it might soften it a little bit.
Sure.
Because my thought was, when I'm feeling sad and missing my mother, if I could go back to that sheet of paper and look at it and say, look how much she said she cared and she loved, and I think it would ease it.
Sure.
So in my book, as I speak about the journey of the losses I've had, I said, they just left me without a note or a card. I'm angry.
Right.
Then I take a deep breath and say, it wasn't their fault. They didn't leave on purpose.
Of course.
And so then I said, okay, I'll give you some slack.
There you go. Cut them some slack.
But they're not here. But that's how I feel.
Absolutely. And that's how we process. And every one of us process a little bit differently, but we can all learn from each other. We can learn from the stories in your book. And I am so thankful, Dr. Clark, that you have written this book and that you have joined us for our Sunday School Storytellers today. We're at the end of our segment today, and we're going to get ready for our worship service. But thank you so much, and we're looking forward to your book launch and signing in the Family Life Center right after our service, our worship service is concluded. And we're excited to celebrate with you.
Thank you.
And I want to encourage every one of you to stop by, and purchase a book, support this ministry and this mission that Dr. Clark has set out on. And I know that you will be blessed. And don't just buy one copy for yourself. Buy a few copies to share with other people as well, because it would make great gifts as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Let's give her a hand today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, and we'll look forward to having you sign our books after service today. Let's bow our heads together and pray. Mighty God, we love you, and we praise your name. Thank you for all that you've done and all you're continuing to do. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to come together with Dr. Clark and for the mission that you have placed in her life that she is accomplishing, Lord, because we know the mission is not completed yet. Lord, the mission, it was not only to write the book, but Lord, to have that book put in the lives, in the hands of people around this world. And so I pray your blessings. I pray that you would lead and guide in the direction you would have this to go. And we trust and believe in you for all things in Jesus' name. And everyone together said amen?
Amen.
God bless you. Thank you for being part of our Sunday School Storytellers. We'll see you in just a few minutes for our worship service. God bless you. We love you all. We are Faith.